This is the New York of the Middle Ages. It was the main city of that time. Angkor Wat. According to different estimates, by the 13th century, there were 700,000 to 1 million people living here. Just for perspective, in London at that time, there were about 50,000 people, and in Paris, there was 60 to 80,000 inhabitants. But here, there were at least 700,000 people. This city, it easily surpassed everything around it, well, everything that was on the planet at that time by about 500 years. Guys, I generally try to avoid taking you to the typical tourist attractions because if you want to see those, there are hundreds of other bloggers. But we find ourselves in Angkor Wat, and there's a good chance that this is the most famous temple in the whole world. It's a massive complex, which is located in the northwest of Cambodia. And I didn't just come here to show you what makes it such a big tourist attraction, because this complex is home to a huge number of mysteries around the history of Cambodia. The main one being how something as immense and impressive as this could have been built in the 12th century.
Angkor Wat, although it is the largest temple in Angkor, it was built in 37 years. Construction began in 1113, and eventually it was completed in 1150.
To understand why this is such a big deal, here is a comparison. Around the same time, or a bit later, in the year 1163, construction began on the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. And this cathedral is 60 times smaller than Angkor Wat, and it took the French 57 years of construction. And then, by the year 1220, it didn't even have towers. In its entirety, the construction of the Notre Dame took 180 years, which is generally considered normal when we are talking about such majestic buildings. Angkor Wat was built from start to finish in 37 years, with all of its towers, fences, libraries, and so on. And if this isn't impressive enough for you, then here is another comparison. When the Notre Dame Cathedral, one of Paris's main landmarks, caught fire, French authorities did everything they could to restore it to how it was.
Oh my God, it's burning!
We will get the best specialists. We are going to bring them in to help us. We will restore it.
And even with today's technology, it has been under construction for 4 years, and they estimate that they'll be done in 2024 or 2025, despite the fact that it is 60 times smaller than Angkor Wat. So, if today's builders were on the job, then building this temple would have taken 3 centuries. So how did builders in the 12th century get it done in 37 years?
During that time, they didn't have anything like our technology. Every single stone was carved by hand, and even the quarry for a sandstone was very far from here. But they surely must have had many skilled craftsmen, and they trained elephants and horses to work with people like a machine. It would have been very difficult to lift the stones. They used elephants to pull the ropes and turn the poles. All they had were wooden stairs and bamboo guides. People knew about some techniques to build this. That's how they were able to construct it so quickly. We just lost the skill. We don't even know it's, we'll never know the technique to build something like this.
It's nonsense. It's nonsense because usually we generally believe that people in the past were a lot less developed than we are.
Yes, they didn't even have a piece of paper to draw on. So they used to chart their plans on stone to get a master plan. See how big this building is and how many pieces of stone they used to build an entire city? So they must have known, some of the people, how to build this entire city, all in 37 years.
This temple is just part of the picture. As a whole, Angkor was a massive place, and going by the latest research, it was crossed by dozens of perpendicular canals, on the shores of which hundreds of thousands of people lived. 4 huge lakes were dug to provide the city's main water supply, and 3 of them still exist today. Just feast your eyes on this absolutely incredible plan. And yes, for comparison, this is what Paris looked like back then. And this is what Europe's largest city, Constantinople, was like back then. Angkor was the largest city that had been built in the world until we entered the Industrial Age.
This soil was dug up to build a moat outside and to make this area a bit higher. So in the beginning, because they wanted to build this temple, they had to dig all that out first. And then they brought the soil over here. They brought it all over here to make it higher. That's why we could see that mill. This is one of the techniques they had to get all the rainwater out in the rainy season. In the new year, the rainy season, you get rain for 6 months. But this area around the main building, it never flooded at all here because all the rainwater is drained out into the canals.
At the same time, the quality of work in Angkor Wat is nothing short of amazing. Look at how the stones are aligned with each other, and just imagine to yourself they are cut out like this. Imagine how difficult it is to put 2 stones next to each other, and then it would make such a recess. And then to carve this little design here, which seems to represent one stone flowing into another. Just imagine, just take a step back for a moment and just imagine this being done in the 12th century. Just imagine how something as intricate as this could have been done. To do it like this, first, to join the stones up like this and make sure they're even, and also to cut the corners into exactly the right shape, and then to design these little carvings which are also perfectly even. Incredible. The 12th century. The quality of the masonry. Look how one stone meets the other stone. And the seam is so thin you barely notice. And at the same time, the relief that has been drawn right over it. See how it goes on as if there's nothing there? Remember, this was done in the 12th century, and it's just perfect. But in the 19th century, this wouldn't have been possible. Here's another seam I want you to see. And this flower is right on top of it, but you can barely notice it. It is absolutely imperceptible.
Hit my baby G-Shock, said it's time, all my thoughts linked up, multiplying.
Just for comparison here, guys, the stones that you see here were placed here very recently. This is 21st century, these stones?
Yes, these are very new.
Really?
Yeah, they are new. These stones were laid quite recently, basically just to stabilize this part of the restoration by UNESCO.
And if you look at it, you can see the seams clearly. Look at the seams on these stones and compare them with those thin ones.
Yes.
The ones between the stones in the 12th century. This is worse than the ones they did 1,000 years ago.
Yes. The level of construction 1,000 years ago, it must have been very advanced, although they had nothing. And they must have been very, very skillful.
Every single corner of this temple is covered in the most intricate stone carvings, even places no one will ever see.
They were cut so that the stones interlocked, so they're able to hold together. And afterwards, they would outline the stone face and then carve to get this beautiful design. You can see. Even the base, almost every piece of stone was covered in decoration. You see, there are a lot of carvings almost everywhere. Here you can see some reliefs, and some of these are shiny. That's because tourists are touching them.
Look at this, guys. Look at the detail. The pattern of the clothes. Look at the face. See how perfectly it has been engraved in the wall. Hands and fingers. The work that these people did is on another level. And it goes on for ages. This whole thing is one massive relief. It runs all along this wall. All of the walls in Angkor Wat are covered with this kind of work. People, animals, various battle scenes, or even just normal scenes of life. This is the finest, most detailed work. The finest. To remind you, this is from the 12th century.
When they first found Angkor Wat, which was in the late 1850s, well, based on the French records, some of the parts of this building were heavily covered by green vegetation. We think some of the green plants took over, and a lot of bats sleep inside these buildings. And that's why you can see at the bottom of these columns there is damage. It's because of bat droppings. When the bat droppings mix with the rainwater, it's very acidic. That's why the columns are eroded at the bottom more than at the top. But this interesting scene is depicting the flight between Rama and the Demon King. Rama brought a lot of monkey warriors with him to fight, with Ravana, who was the Demon King. So they fought with each other for one beautiful girl, Sita. She was Rama's wife. But the Demon King kidnapped her, and that's why we see these activities, all fighting of the monkey warriors and the demons.
It was this very wall in Angkor Wat that inspired Rudyard Kipling to come up with the Bangarlogs in his classic The Jungle Book about the boy Mowgli, who was raised by animals. By the way, the Bangarlogs, or should I say monkeys, still inhabit the temples of Angkor.
In this area, we found almost 1,000 different temples.
1,000.
Yes.
Well, of course,
and
if you have
that's
1 million
because-
people, you're going to need more than just one temple. It's interesting to note that the later the temple was built, the more simplistic it seems to have been built. So, this is 50 years younger than Angkor Wat. But this looks much more primitive than Angkor.
Well, actually, some of the parts of the building, they're in perfect condition. It depends on the rain and wind direction. And some parts of the carvings, they were covered so the rain wouldn't have got to them too much. That's why they are still in this condition. But this is still the original. It looks more impressive. It's very cool.
Compare the amount of detail right here to the amount of detail in what we saw before, the reliefs in Angkor Wat. This is newer. These guys should have had better technology because 50 years had passed, so they should have figured out new techniques and done better. A mystery.
Almost everywhere around Angkor Wat, you will see these beautiful female figures. We call them Apsara. Up means the sky, and Sara means dancing. So Apsara means the heavenly dance. They have different features, some are smiling or they're singing. They have their own expressions. They catch our eye everywhere. Some of them are shiny because the tourists touch them. The Apsara dance is one of the oldest dances in the world, and now it is on the list of UNESCO. I mean, it's protected by UNESCO.
This is the temple of Bante Samra. By the way, those statues on the roof, the ones that look like phalluses, well, those are phalluses.
Oh.
This is also in Angkor, and it was built in parallel with Angkor Wat. It was the same monarch, and it's safe to assume that they used the same specialists and the same laborers, but it's pretty clear that there's a difference in quality. Just look at the work. Pay attention to the joints that are between the slabs, and also look at how the patterns on the walls were made. It really looks to me like they come from two different eras. So what we have here is more like the standard slit work of that time, and the stones all still fit pretty well together, but it's still nothing like the level of workmanship that we saw over in Angkor Wat. Have a look at what's going on over here. Here we have all the component parts, but look at how they are fitted together. You can see that they were trying to carry on with the pattern over the joint, but this is clearly not a very easy thing to do, and they couldn't do it accurately. Look how this one goes and goes and goes and goes. And over here, they tried hard to keep the design going, but it is pretty plain to see that they failed. They didn't do a good job with carrying the design on. Again, this is all incredibly high quality, considering the time and the technology that they had. And it is very similar to what you would expect from a very high quality building that was constructed in the 12th century. But this is nothing close to the quality of workmanship we saw in Angkor Wat. In Angkor Wat, you cannot see the lines between the blocks. But here you see them. This is the same time period, the same era. But it's just a little bit worse than Angkor.
Yes, each one is slightly different, even if they were constructed at the same time. So, like this one, see, it's flat. There are also 3 layers, but they are all at the bottom, like this.
Just look at the quality of the masonry. I'm going to say it once again, that they're all from the same era. There is a theory that Angkor Wat was not actually built in 37 years, that the archaeologists got it wrong somewhere, they miscalculated the dates, they were incorrect records. Basically, it took a bit longer to build, because the amount of stone that they needed would have been hard to deliver, well, that amount of stone in 37 years, with the technology they had. Listen. All you can hear is the sound of birds singing. It's absolutely deserted. At the same time, the temple has survived in a pretty good condition. I mean, the colonnades and even the central courtyard of the temple itself. It's like it was still alive. Is it always like this? I mean, so quiet with no one around?
This temple is always like this. So usually it's quiet and peaceful. So compared to like Angkor or Bayon, where normally there are a lot of people, lots of visitors.
You know what, guys? No videos and no photographs can capture how beautiful this place really is. They don't really capture the atmosphere. When I was preparing, I went over so much material, but nothing can prepare you for what it's really like. When you get here, it's different. So, the coolest thing about all this is that in its vicinity, you can walk right through all of the ruins and be immersed in them. Usually in museums like this, the historical parts are fenced off and you can only walk along some paths, but here you can walk almost anywhere you want, although some parts are fenced off, but this is just for safety because you wouldn't want a stone falling on your head. But generally, you can walk through the ruins. Have a look at this quickly, guys. This arrow is pointing to the west, and there is clearly a passage. And this other arrow is pointing to the east, and there's a passage. And north, my friends, the compass is pointing to absolute north. And south, this one is pointing to absolute south. All of these passages were clearly collaborated to the cardinal points with complete accuracy, without any compass, in the 12th century. Over in Europe, they will only invent the compass about half a century after the construction of Angkor Wat. It's possible that the ancient Cambodians used the Chinese compass, which was created with a magnetic spoon, but even when that was working at its best, it had a margin of error of 15 degrees. Around the time Angkor Wat was being constructed, the Chinese invented a compass without a needle, but that doesn't answer our question because it pointed to magnetic north, which is a different point to the geographical points which we saw when I was pointing them out on my smartphone. And the passages in Angkor are entirely based on the geographical points which can only be identified with the help of a system of satellites and complex mathematical calculations based on the magnetic pole. These days, all this can be done on a smartphone, but back in the 12th century, how would they have gotten it right? It's hard to give an answer. But as a result of such a clear orientation, twice a year, on the day of equinox, if you look from the main entrance, the sun rises directly behind the central tower of Angkor Wat. And just watch how the tourists flock to see it.
This building, its architecture is quite amazing. 6 months the sun is on the right, 6 months the sun is on the left. That's why twice a year we see a beautiful sunrise rising right behind the central tower of this beautiful temple.
And stars are not that proper. I mean, stars don't show you north, for example. They show you somewhere close to north, but not exactly. How?
That's aliens. Nobody knows exactly, but this part of Angkor's history, no one really knows for sure. Records from that period, they're gone.
You know, guys, I've never been a big fan of those conspiracy theories about the aliens coming down to Earth and building the Egyptian pyramids or building Angkor Wat because I think it makes things too simple. Or maybe they make things too complicated, but in general with conspiracy theories, I don't know, but they just don't make any sense to my mind. If you have your own conspiracy theories, then let me know. In any case, it is obvious that the Khmer were one of the most developed civilizations on the planet. And on top of that, it happened relatively recently. They possessed the most advanced technology and they built a city that was truly massive for that time. But for some reason, they didn't think to leave any written evidence of their existence. There are no Khmer books on the construction of this city, nor are there any drawings or plans. On top of that, there is no real understanding about what possible reason the Khmer would have had for leaving the greatest city in the world one fine day. Imagine for a moment today's largest metropolises. What do you think would make their people just get up and pack everything and abandon all of it, just to go settle in the fields and jungles? What is your explanation? Why was this city abandoned? I mean, okay, the invaders came in and they captured this land. But why didn't they stay here? They conquered the biggest city in the world and then just abandoned it.
Well, there were two different theories to explain all of this. Why did they go from here? The first theory is Angkor was invaded by so many Siamese raiders, many times, throughout the centuries, that the late king, who had liberated Angkor from the Siam people, he decided to move the city out of here, this area, to a different place. It is mainly for safety. So they moved out of here mainly for safety because of the Siam invasions. Another popular theory that at the end of the Angkor period, during the late 12th, 13th centuries, they stopped getting rainfall for 10 years. So all of the different lakes and irrigation systems, they completely dried up. So no more water for farming, and it forced them to move out of this area to a different area, closer to the Mekong River, so they got water from the Mekong River. So it's just two main things. Two different concepts to explain why they moved out from the Angkor region.
Personally, the theory about invaders seems strange to me. Why conquer such a big, rich city just to give it back to nature? Unless you're an ecology extremist, and 10 years without rain over a particular city also seems strange to me, because then all the neighboring countries would also starve, and it would also definitely be easier for a city with a developed system of lakes and canals than for cities that didn't have that in place. Overall, there is a lot of mystery, but we do know for sure that the main destroyers of Angkor were not the Siamese conquerors, and it wasn't even nature, but people who came later.
Angkor means city, Tom means big. So Angkor Thom means big city. There were 5 entrance gates to Angkor City, and this is one of them. This is the only one that still is in good condition. I mean that, as you can see, there are statues on both sides of the bridge. On the right, there are demons, and on the left, there are gods. But these statues, most of them, they are missing their original heads. Their original heads were looted by treasure hunters. And you can see the difference between the new heads and the original heads. If we talk about Buddha statues, almost all of them, they're gone. They're missing. Maybe some of them were taken by Siamese conquerors, and some of them were taken by treasure hunters.
This is considered the very first European drawing of Angkor Wat. In 1860, it was drawn by the French scientist Henri Moe, and the abandoned city that he introduced to Europe attracted tens and hundreds and thousands of treasure hunters, and to this day, people are still drawn to this Asian Wild West.
A lot of the beautiful things were taken away by bad people, especially when the country was not stable. So they were starving, so they just cut them off and took them away to sell on the black market. So
When was it? I
that's-
mean, was it the 19th century, the 18th century?
No, even later than that. So, 20th century,
Ah.
yes. Well, the French were here for 90 years. And then, after the French, foreign countries, they came here. Cambodia was invaded by foreign countries, so they took a lot of stuff out of this area, especially all of those beautiful things. Just recently, 27 different items just came back from the United States to Cambodia through the embassy.
Cambodian treasures can be found all over the world, in everything from state museums to the private collections of billionaires. So it's really no wonder that the movie Tomb Raider was shot in the country.
Well, Tomb Raider? It was the first movie with Angelina Jolie.
Yeah.
There was a big crew from America that came here to shoot that movie in 2011. So this temple now is getting more and more visits from tourists after Tomb Raider movies came out.
And even though Angelina Jolie walks around this temple for just a few minutes, there are still quite a lot of Buddhist monks who pose for photographs at exactly the same tree that the sexy treasure hunter walks past in the movie Tomb Raider. Overall, the temple is very cinematic, and the trees that grow through the walls give the whole place quite a magical atmosphere. The stumps look like they're from some huge octopus, some kind of giant octopus that lives under the ground. They're entangling the entire building.
Just look at that. Absolutely incredible.
This place just looks so truly surreal.
This is a unique temple in Angkor. It's the only one where the trees still continue to climb up through the ground. They're taking over. You can see how big they are. Some of them are well over 300 years old, and they are still alive and growing. And we've all made the decision not to cut them down, because we found that this is the best to show the world to understand what exactly has happened in the past, especially when the city of Angkor was moved out to a different place. And nobody looked after her. These beautiful things, and then Mother Nature came back and took over.
Guys, out of all the ruins I've been to in my life, these ones are the most beautiful by far. The ancient temple, the vines coming from the trees and spreading over the walls, the monkeys that you see in the corner of your eyes, the sound of bird songs in the air. This is such an incredible feeling. It feels as if I'm in Indiana Jones or Tomb Raider. These ruins are just so incredible. And most importantly, there are very few people. There are really not a lot of tourists. I think there are 3 or 4 people, and that's it. It's an incredible feeling.